and Village of Endicott. I think that must be Anthony Bates. So, Anthony, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi, how you doing?
How are you?
Very good.
Good.
I kind of twisted at the suggestion of people at last night's meeting of Inspire Broome. I was asked to phone Anthony, twist his arm, and ridiculously short notice to come along and brainstorm with us, because Anthony knows a lot more about opportunities in the village with respect to all kinds of things, buildings and other opportunities. So after a short few words from me, and it will give people a little chance to join us, I'm going to put this discussion in context of the 10 steps to zero waste, and then we'll get cracking. Were you able to, Anthony, were you able to find that list of buildings?
No, I was going to see if, I know Trustee Warner did one years ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a couple years ago. So I don't know if it's been updated or not. I don't know if he was going to be on the call or not. If not, I can ask him and see if he's got a new list of it. So the one we did last year, we just did business owners on the avenue.
Yeah.
Because when we were applying for grants and administering some grants, we wanted to get an accurate list of current business owners on the Ave. So that's the list I have, but Ted might have another one with every property and every vacant property.
Great.
But I just don't know how old it is. So,
Good.
Anthony, it's Tom O'Brien. Does the village have any plans for the huge lot, the old Kmart lot? Are there any plans in the works for that?
yeah, that's privately owned still. So that's still owned by the owner of Kmart. So
Okay.
he does have a couple businesses he's talking to right now that are interested in possibly doing something on the site. But that's nothing the village has at this point, and we've actually never owned it. That's kind of a misconception too, is that it was a village dump at one point. It was actually an EJ dump, so the village never owned it, and we're not on the chain of title of that. So when we looked at it a couple of years ago, we wanted to possibly take ownership of it so we could get further grant funds, but realizing we were never on the chain of ownership, we wanted to stay away from it just because of the remediation efforts that could happen on the property at some point. So
Yeah. Good. Well,
he actually does have a grant. We got him a Restore New York grant a couple years ago. So there's a grant kind of sitting there it's a little over $420,000. And right now it's to tear down the building. It's a demolition grant. So if someone came in and wanted to, do a project on site and keep the building, we'd have to petition the state to see if we can reallocate those funds from demolition to rehab. So that's come out in the last couple of years too. Some people wanted to keep the building. So whatever project happens there, we'll take a course of action after that, whether it's demo or a rehab.
okay, good. I can see where you can help us with the questions here, especially when we get into grants. So I see Maria has joined us. Maria, I don't know if you had a chance to look at what Ellen Tiberi found on the Ithaca website, Reuse Ithaca website.
So I just quickly looked at it, and I was going to ask if anyone had. I see it. So I'm just quickly looked at it. I'm sorry, I didn't give it as much. I didn't look at it as carefully as I should have.
Mhm.
So has anyone logged into the site and started to pursue the program?
Yep, I did. I registered and I was able to open up. They give you 38 steps of what you have to do to set up an operation like theirs, but it's very clinical, and it's not as, it's not going to excite too many people because it doesn't have the flesh and bones of actually visiting an operating site, so to get people excited. but I don't like filling out forms, and I'm hopeless at following instructions. I think, Maria, that's more in your forte.
Why did I know that that was going to happen? And yes, it is in my forte. So I will log on and register and go through the whole.
It's exhausting. There's a lot of things they suggest you've got to do. It's a lot of things. Anyway, I think we'll get cracking. Ellen, I think you have an opening statement that you want to make, and then I've got about 10 minutes to spend, and then we'll get down to brainstorming.
No, I think just a quick follow-up on action items from our last meeting. I see Chris Berger isn't on, so I'm not sure. So he was trying to contact his contact at Ithaca Reuse Center, and he didn't have any luck on that. My main action item was to get that 4 Rs, the resource document that Tom put together that has a ton of wonderful information on a lot of things that Broome County residents probably don't know about what you can recycle, where you can go, phone numbers for, Jessica Brewer was supposed to, she's supposed to attend. I hope she does. Who to call if you have a question on recycling or the landfill, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's one of the main things that Tom had brought up in our meeting 2 weeks ago is there's a lot of resources out there for recycling and composting and reusing goods, but it's probably the goal is to advertise better to make sure there's public awareness. That doesn't have anything directly to do with, finding new buildings, finding a building in Endicott for a possible reuse, repair and reuse center. And that's something that Paul's going to talk about. But it's one of the things that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago that really, that's really important. And I would love to be able to come up with a monthly newsletter. And then we had a lot of other discussions. There's a lot of things that we were talking about, like Coralie is talking about with maybe the 10th and 11th graders that she teaches as a science teacher at BOCES P-Tech. Maybe they can be involved somehow. And so we're kind of, we probably can go in a lot of different directions, but the biggie right now is thinking about like a repair and reuse center. Why don't you take over, Paul?
Okay, I'm going to share well, before I do, I keep forgetting to do this. I took a case of these, can you see that? Is that on the screen? I took a case of these books. This is the book I wrote on zero waste. It was published in 2013. So if the name Zero Waste is new to you, you can get an idea of what this is. I've taken the whole case, I've donated them, no money comes to me, but we're asking for a minimum of $5. Whatever we get from this will go towards all the expenses incurred, or some of the expenses incurred by setting up a group like this, registration here and, all the fees that you have to pay. So it doesn't come out of somebody's pocket. That's the idea. So Mary Ann Dorner has a box of these books in her house in Endicott. So I live in Binghamton, so it's difficult for people to get it from me. So if you want a copy, contact Mary Ann Dorner and off you go. So now I'm going to share the screen. And what I want to do here is to put this discussion of reuse and repair, for those who didn't hear my original talk, which is not many, put the reuse and repair in the context of zero waste and the 10 steps to zero waste, which is thoroughly covered in this book. So take it away. Slideshow. There we go. You should now have that full screen. Yep. Okay. So the full title of the book is Zero Waste Solution, Untrashing the Planet One Community at a Time. So I think, again, you can see my perspective here is community building. It's communities that we have to look to for the future, in my view, I may be wrong, to fight overconsumption of useless crap, you need to build communities where you build relationships. Living today, you want relationships, not television, TV commercials, buy. So you can see where reuse fits into that. So here are the 10 steps to zero waste. This is my contribution to this discussion worldwide. And you can see if in terms of Broome County, we're doing a lot of these things, or other people are doing these things. Source separation, we have that. Door-to-door collection, we have that. Composting is weak. Chris Berger has talked about that at the last meeting. We still got to work with the others to see if we can get some farmers to help us, or small scale local stuff. That's a big missing link at the moment. Recycling, everybody's familiar with that. Then the missing link, although we have thrift stores, we have a lot of good operations. Back to your discussion, Ellen, we have 2 thrifty shoppers, one in Enwell, one in Binghamton. We have Salvation Army in Binghamton. We have Salvation Army in Endicott. We also have Goodwill in Vestal. And there may be some others that I've forgotten. But this is more than what they offer. Those operations offer things like, particularly clothing, tremendous on clothing, and a lot of kitchenware, utensils, appliances, books, CDs, paintings, decorations, that kind of thing. Small stuff, not very big on furniture. Although the Salvation Army in Binghamton does do some furniture, but certainly not big stuff, not large appliances, and not building materials, and not offering a lot of repair and job training, although Goodwill Nationwide and Salvation Army are very conscious of creating jobs, which is one aspect of what we're talking about here. The Zero Waste Research Center is very new. There are just a few universities. I've seen a zero waste research at University of Malaysia. University in New Zealand has a zero waste research operation. But what I'm looking at here is a local group, a local organization, ideally located in the reuse and repair center if it has enough space. And the idea is that we bring in professors and students from universities and BOCES to actually do research with the stuff that people throw away. Why are they throwing it away, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Economic incentives, we have one. We have the pay-as-you-throw system in Broome County, and that's good. The rest we don't have. We don't have residual separation in front of the landfill, or a little bit. There's a little bit. There's a drop-off area at the landfill where you can drop off paint and household toxics and so on. And certainly we need more research at the landfill. Okay, so just a few words about reuse and repair so you know what we want, or what I think we want. Reuse and repair in community centers. Now, the whole thing here is that reusable items are low volume, and that's why you don't get much attention at the municipal level with reuse. It's not driven by municipalities. It's driven by voluntary groups, usually, and sometimes entrepreneurs. But although it's a small percentage of the discarded items, it's well over a third of the total value, which means that the potential for creating jobs and small businesses is huge, far, far greater than any other aspect of the zero waste approach. Here's a wonderful example, urban ore, called an eco park. This is in Berkeley, California, and it's run by a retired professor of sociology who's very interested in creating jobs, and his wife, Mary Lou DeVenter, who's a writer and a journalist. And between them, they've got this wonderful operation. It's been running for well over 30 years, I think more like 35 years now. It grosses $3 million a year and 37 full-time, well-paid jobs. Dan doesn't want volunteers. Dan wants to pay people, but Dan wants to create good jobs in the urban environment and keep stuff out of the landfill at the same time. And this is what it looks like. It's a huge facility where you can get anything from a thumbtack to stage scenery that people from the film industry come and get. E.T. and people like that, they find things here. It's junk, it's antiques, it's a bargain waiting to happen. And one of the very valuable items is building materials. They have a huge business with building materials, with things like doors and windows and lumber and bricks and anything that you can take out of an old building. And then over in Burlington, which is of course much closer to us, they have a similar operation. When you walk in, it's like Bosco's. It's like a chain, it's a retail store, whatever you call those things, chain store. And except everything's secondhand, but it's laid out beautifully with furniture, televisions which are working in front of you. And also they have a job training system where they literally take people off the street and train them to repair your choice, large appliances, small appliances, electrical goods, and computers. And some of these people that they train stay on and train further people themselves. Others they help to get a job. And there's government money to support that kind of activity. Now, another thing that they have in Burlington is they are linked to a deconstruction operation, which takes down old buildings very carefully. And deconstruction is in competition with demolition, what they call crunch and dump. They take down things very carefully. It takes much longer to deconstruct than demolish, but you save hugely on disposal costs. Instead of having truckloads of construction and demolition debris, which goes to a landfill, you have a lot of valuable items. So some of your money is saving on tipping fee at the landfill, and the rest of your money is on reclaimed materials, which can be used in new buildings and also making furniture. And some of the buildings that they take down, the name of the company, by the way, is Resource. Here you see it on this guy's T-shirt. Some of the wood in old buildings is fabulous, much more valuable than when it went in. It's aged, it has a, patina to it and so on. And they make beautiful furniture with this. And so it's jobs. You need people to design this stuff. You need people to build it. You need people to sell it. So you can see how many jobs can come from value added. And all around the world, you'll find craftsmen sort of grabbing materials like tin cans and making beautiful toys out of them. You see that in South Africa, Vietnam. So there's plenty of place for creative people to take scrap materials and make beautiful things out of them. And the same way, there are places which take scraps from industry. When they're stamping out leather soles or for shoes, you get a whole sheet with holes in it, but lots of material. And schools use this material to make things. And there's one place in Italy where they are making purses and handbags and things out of this old bits and pieces of leather. Value added. So the purpose, and you're creating a circular economy. People talk about a circular economy. This is a circular economy. And the beauty of this is that every object that you use requires no new manufacture, no more extraction of raw materials, no shipping these raw materials around the world, no pollution, just the small amount of pollution involved in transporting it from the local community to the store and people coming to pick it up and buy it. So this is beautiful. It is the circular economy in action. Job training, job creation, linked to deconstruction and value added, community education. We can demonstrate all kinds of things. Ellen, you talked about the things which we can do right now. Some of that education can be in the form of websites, in the form of leaflets. But in my view, the best education is hands-on, actually seeing it happen, seeing what a vermiculture, what a worm bin looks like, what backyard composting looks like, hands-on. Collection depot for household toxics. There's money, government. I mean, Anthony, you might know something about that. Obviously, refrigerators, waste oil, fluorescent bulbs, batteries, they have to be collected very carefully. There may be local government money to those who do it carefully and responsibly. Community development, recreating the village in the anonymous city, not so paramount perhaps in Endicott, because I sense you've got one hell of a community there already. But when you get to bigger cities, creating a community is much more difficult. A reuse and repair center is a seed to do that. And I've said to, cities like Rome, I said, look, you've got a huge city here, but this city is made up of towns and villages which have been incorporated at some point. Find those old local areas and put a reuse and repair center in there. And that becomes the seed to educate the community to do whatever you want them to do with the rest of the program. I'm almost got to the end. And we can have fun with reuse centers. I think the thing is, we have to get away from this notion of we make waste. And waste is horrible stuff which you want to get rid of. And what we have to get into people's minds is waste is resources in the wrong place. And if we do it right, if we do it with creativity, these are going to be fun places for families to visit. And here's an extraordinary example. This is from Sweden. Sweden is not a country I associate with having fun so much. They seem to be rather miserable. I think it's something to do with the weather. But anyway, in Gothenburg, they have this huge reuse park. And families drive us out of town. Families drive to this place, take their recyclables, take their reusables, and visit. And when you go in, there's a band playing. And when you walk around, there are clowns to entertain the kids. There's a lot of things for kids to do. The toilet is an art gallery. They have exhibitions. They have people from television who value your antiques. You can take those in, junk antiques. And they also have rock concerts, and the entrance fee is 20 PET plastic bottles. So it gives the kids inspiration to collect those things, see them as resources. And lastly, this is my fun item. The dog here, this is the famous Swedish dog, which separates mixed recyclables into 6 different categories. So I think we can dream away here. I think the dream is started in Ithaca. And the question is, can we find the team, the location, the funding, and the enthusiasm to do it, in Endicott? The only reason I'm stressing Endicott, even though our name is Inspire Broome, is that's where our group started with No Burn Broome. We said no to something. Now we want to say yes to something. And I'm hoping that we can provide models for the rest of Broome County. At the same time, I'm sure other communities in Broome County can provide models for us. So that's the context, Anthony, of what I wanted you to see that we were trying to do, or at least we're still brainstorming. I don't know if this is ever going to happen, but can I, for those who don't know who Anthony is, Anthony, would you introduce yourself? What is your position on the village of Endicott?
Yep, I'm the village manager for the village of Endicott. So I'm the head of finance and head of administration for the village.
Excellent. So I think you are going to be a gold mine of a resource for us in terms of possible buildings where this might happen. And I think this is a dilemma for me right now, because my attitude is you want as big a warehouse as you possibly can get. You want a lot of space, but that may be running when we should be starting small. So to me, there's three stages here. There's a small operation, which might be a storefront somewhere, small operation to get the funds coming in and to seed the idea. That would be for reusable objects. That would be like another thrifty shopper. But then the next stage would be repair. And then the third stage would be deconstruction. And I see that as you go through that evolution, the building is going to get bigger and bigger. That would be the goal. Whether we succeed or not, I don't know. So, Anthony, have you got any quick reactions to all of this? And then we start to pick your brain.
It's definitely interesting. I think that, the first time I heard about it was when I talked to you today. So, it's something, like I said, very interesting. I'd like to see, if it's possible for Endicott, maybe as you get larger, maybe you're looking at a county level type thing. So I think support from, all municipalities involved would be important. And, maybe identifying who's going, like who would operate this thing. Then you can find a location, you can find support for it. So there's, maybe there's opportunities in Endicott. Maybe we can help support, locally or within the county as well.
Yeah.
So and then that one you mentioned too, that Los Angeles one, there looked like that was obviously that was a privately owned, probably with some support from the, from whether it's a county or city or something.
Completely. That was Berkeley, not Los Angeles, although the figures were from Los Angeles. Berkeley, that is a business. It's to make money, and they make a lot of it. Resource in Burlington is a not-for-profit. They make money too, but it's to go into charitable causes, poverty relief, social services, job training, and that kind of thing. So there are two models there, and I think the Ithaca reuse is also not for profit. Part 3, 1C or whatever. What is it? Part C. I can never remember those combinations.
501.
501C.
What are those things? Maria knows. So yeah, keep going.
So were the Ithaca one and the Burlington one, are those run by a government agency?
No,
or are they also private as well?
I think they're run by a not-for-profit agency, okay. But I suspect that they have got government support. I'm sure there's Ithaca money. They have 4 sites, by the way. They're really getting some traction there.
And how much do you think square footage would you need to start? Like, I mean, are these, are you looking at like we mentioned Kmart earlier, like that's 100,000 square feet, is something like that size, or are we looking at, maybe something that could be in a downtown environment, like like a Washington Avenue or something like that?
Well, again, I think that to me, I'm trying to be practical, and I'm a professor, so I'm the least practical person in the world, but trying to be practical, I see that we should start with a storefront and try to make a little bit of money. My dream would be something like a Kmart size, where you got plenty of space for storage, especially for building materials. And you saw the Dan Knapp's operation. It's a big warehouse, lots and lots of space, and you can fill it with things, because the larger the space you have, you don't have to turn over everything that quickly. And always somebody wants the weirdest things. When I was there, and by the way, the idea of paying people well is that people learn the difference between junk and antiques very, very quickly. And some of Dan Knapp's staff have been working with him for 25, 30 years. And the reason he holds on to them is they know. So when I was there doing a videotape a few years back, a stove came in. It didn't look very elaborate to me. It was clearly an old stove, but within half an hour, that stove was sold for $750. It was donated to them, $750. So if you know someone, you've got a staff person who knows what they're doing, you can make a lot of money out of these things. And vice versa, if they don't know what they're doing, they'll sell it for nothing. So, so I think the answer to your question is as big as we can get. Once we 2 or 3 years when we got traction and we're obviously got a reputation like Ithaca. Every time I've been to the Ithaca reuse operation, I've been there 3 or 4 times. It's been crowded. It's even quite crowded even during the COVID. And they've got everything I've talked about. They've got the building materials. They got the deconstruction. They got when you go in, they have a lot of electrical things like computers and CD players, DVD players, and they're all repaired. They have a staff there that's repairing these, and people bring in their equipment and ask questions about it, and they help them repair and so on. And each one that's repaired has a label on it indicating that it has been repaired. And so they are able to get a higher price for these kind of items because they've got qualified staff repairing them, in a short amount of time before it goes on the shelf. So you can be pretty certain that you can get good stuff there, which is quite different from thrifty shopper. I've bought DVD players. I mean, maybe 1 in 4 works, and the 3 I've had to take back. They replace them within a certain amount of time if they're not working, but that is an issue.
Yeah, I could see something like this possibly, even in a business district, just to have, some positive activity, people walking around where it's or maybe more of a retail setting as well. So I think, if we had an interested party or something, I think we could definitely find a place for them. And then, on the village level, there's really not that many incentives, like financial incentives, right? So we would go to the town, see if the town could help. They have some like low interest loan programs, but also like I'd like to see maybe like a Don Lepardo, Fred Akshar, like that level of government too, to help, to see what funding is available for, I call it a startup company, to come to our area, So I think there's locations, whether it's the Avenue or around the downtown area. And then if we had someone that was interested, I'm sure there's some types of incentives we can work towards, obviously can't guarantee anything, but I'm sure there's programs out there for, a new business like this.
This is great. You've said something which has triggered a memory here. In London, I noticed their reuse was very orientated to office equipment, offices buying there's a niche industry in California called sunrise retrieval, something like that. And what this company does, when a hotel, particularly hotels or restaurants, when they refurbish, typically what happens is the hotel will get a tip, a big metal, whatever you call it, tip, dumpster. And they rip out everything from the rooms and renovate. Take out the carpets, take out the windows, take out the curtains, take out everything and dump it into the dumpster. For them, it's time. You've got so many days to go from the old decor to the new decor, and a huge amount of stuff is wasted. What this company does, it says, tell us the day that you're going to go in and take out the stuff. We will take it out for you, and we will find anything that's recyclable. We will find the recyclers. Anything that's reusable, we'll find the reusables. They charge a fee for this, but again, the hotel doesn't have the dumping costs, and everything is recovered. Things like mirrors and windows and blinds. I mean, amazing stuff, and a good business, a good niche business. And of course, that would flow from a reuse repair operation because we would then be one of the outlets for that business. Is George on the line?
No, he isn't.
George is an amazing, he's got a lot of experience in everything that you can talk about. You can't say anything that George hasn't done, including antiques. He's done all kinds of things in antiques. So if I had to select somebody to run this operation tomorrow, it would be George. But he may be, we might be outbid for George. He's very talented.
I think
But
the
I would
repair
be,
part is interesting too. You know, I know there's some reuse facilities. I know I've seen one in Vestal, I think, but the repair part is something we don't have, at least that I know of. You know, so that's intriguing to me. Is that the repair aspect of it too? And then, like you said, if there's a demolition of a building or business, you know, to have someone go in and, you know, and collect some of the valuable goods that are in there and reuse them. That's definitely interesting, you know.
Isabella's on the line, and Isabella was telling us that she grew up in Italy, first 12 years, and she knows that in Endicott you've got a lot of artisans, a lot of people that have skills. They repair typewriters, they repair furniture, clocks, you name it. There's some shoemaker. A lot of these people are getting elderly. A lot of these people are retired, but they would be a wonderful resource to have some space. They wouldn't have to worry about overheads. They'd have the space. They do what they want to do, what they enjoy doing. They can make a little money on the side. We would make money from their goods, but also we have somebody from BOCES, Coralie, I would think some of your students might be fascinated to learn some of these skills. Is that something that you feel they would enjoy doing it? Can you see a niche for them here?
I do think so, especially electronics. I think that would be something that they would be interested in.
Yeah, we probably need younger people for the electronics. I think the people that Isabella was talking about, I think they may be a little older than the electronics people, but there would be. I mean, the one thing you're certain about today, there are lots of young people out there who get their kicks from electronics, as using them, playing with them, but also give them the chance to deconstruct them, recover parts. That's a big business, taking computers apart and recovering the gold and precious metals and so on. Yeah. So we have a client in you, I hope, Coralie. Good. Okay. Does anybody else want to ask Anthony, our gold mine resource, of what's available in Endicott?
Anthony, this is Ellen. How are
Hi.
you?
Hey, good.
I know, I wish George was on. He has some good ideas. He used to be in commercial real estate, and he, you know, filling buildings, that kind of thing. So he kind of knows certain things like, oh, this vertical farming thing would be great for blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't quite sure where to go. He talked to the guys, he talked to the trustees, you know, and it's like, oh, is that something that Chris Pelto of Huron should be involved in? Anyway, I think we kind of came to the conclusion that maybe it's best for him to reach out to you for some direction. Would that be fair?
Is that George?
Sorry?
Are you talking George or
George.
one of yeah.
George, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I've talked to him before. It's been a little while, but
Okay.
I have talked to him before. So yeah.
Yeah, he has some good ideas. I'm sure that you get a lot of different ideas. I know that you guys are doing all kinds of, you know, working on all kinds of things, but I would love for you to hear what his ideas are.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was done.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, anything with Huron campus, or if it's, you know, a business that's looking, maybe contacts us first or something, we'd steer them towards Huron if it's that type of facility. And, you know, I can honestly say I don't know exactly, you know, how many square foot they have available, what buildings are available. I mean, I know there's, you know, over 24 businesses in the whole campus, you know, some larger. obviously some larger than others, but as far as what's available, I would definitely check with Chris, and he's usually a great resource. He's easy enough to get a hold of and ask questions on. But
Okay.
I mean,
great.
if there's someone interested in like an Endicott or if they're looking for a place, we could definitely help with that. If they give us, we just need to know like what their needs are.
Okay.
How big, the square footage. We do have a municipal light district too, so some people are concerned with that, if they can fall within a commercial space within that municipal light district. So, save them some money on utility bills as well. So,
Okay.
if they come to us with any ideas or what they're looking for, I'm sure, we can kind of point them in a certain direction or not.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we're in a kind of awkward position of coming at this with goodwill. Most of us have jobs already, so we're not looking for employment, but we have a lot of goodwill and a certain amount of guilt. I mean, by our effective opposition to Sunjeel, we deprived Endicott of 86 jobs. And so I would like to see an operation that creates at least 86 jobs.
That'd be great. There's a large building, and we go back and forth about this. It's privately owned. It's on the avenue. It's the other Birds building. So it's the one near the post office.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of space in that building.
Yeah.
Just talking about how much, seeing some of those pictures, I guess I didn't realize how much storage space you would need. So you would need a lot of square footage just for that. So maybe a building kind of along that scale would be beneficial for a project like this.
And there's enough space to have community meetings too, to have places where people can come for talks or even celebrations, parties and things. That's, I think, more of a community center, but built around these practical solutions.
Yeah. I'm
So,
thinking of our other
Anthony,
business districts. We have the north side of Endicott. We have the Union District, but I think the larger square footage space is going to be, just off the top of my head, is going to be on the avenue, in that area, or the campus, or here on campus. Obviously, if it's large enough, or I don't know. I mean, maybe you have a smaller space available at Huron that would benefit from having something like this too. So I guess if we find the interest, then we can find the location.
Yeah.
Anthony, the old Sanzo building in Union, is that available? The old Sanzo building?
Yeah, actually that's at the county owns that right now. It went
Really?
for it's on the corner there. I think it's
It's
111
really
or
not on the corner. Across the street, there was a shop there, what do you call it? Plumbing shop. And across the street, there's a grocery store right across the street from the Sanzo building.
I think it's still available. I thought the county owned that one. I could check for sure, but I think that went for taxes. But I'll double check on that for sure.
Anthony, how far does the municipal light district extend? So would the Sanzo building be within the district?
Yeah, Union District is in. So it's from the arch near the McDonald's there, all the way down to about Bassett Ave.
Yeah.
And then it goes over to Franklin and West Endicott
Yeah.
in that area
Yeah.
too.
So that would be advantageous because it's a reduction in our electrical costs. So
Right.
for starting out, that would be a big help in terms of utilities. So that would be an interesting building, and it's in fairly decent shape, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, that one's no major problems. We could run like code reports on it too and see if there's any,
Okay.
maybe if there's had been any issues, if they've been corrected or not too.
So, and then going back to the Burt's building, at one point, someone had brought up the fact that it has been left without any kind of utility maintenance, so there might be issues in terms of the conditions, the environmental conditions of the building.
I know the one issue on that building was it needed an upgrade to the sprinkler, the indoor sprinkler system. So I know that's what was one of the hangups before. And actually, there was that building is included in our Greater Binghamton Fund awards. There's a gentleman who owns the Exit, that the indoor growing facility. He's in the back of I think it was the Aaron's building off of Main Street.
Yep. Mhm.
Behind there, he started off at Tiger Ventures over at the old Linnaeus West School, and so that's like the incubator where he was, and he was looking to expand. So we put in an application as part of our Binghamton Fund, and he was looking at purchasing a building and moving his facility there and making it, much larger. And that was the building he was looking at, was the one I mentioned earlier on the avenue there. But I mean, he never came to an agreement with the owner. And I know the only thing I do know there did need to be an upgrade to that sprinkler system, but if we could work, if someone was interested in it, we can see what kind of other funding's available to help someone move there, because it's a large location. But maybe
Would
the
there
one
be a way to take a tour of the building at some point?
Yeah, I'm sure we can get in there. Yeah, there's we know, I do know the owner from the one on the avenue, so we can go in there if someone's interested in it. And
Because that's 2 floors. That has 2 floors.
yeah, yeah,
That was the old McLean's building.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, sounds good. I think that the idea of having a tour is a good one. How quickly could we get a tour organized? We don't need to have too many people, just half a dozen or whatever.
Yeah, we could reach out to them and see, and I'll see if it's listed too, if there's a real estate agent on it, because I'm sure that would be the easiest way to get in, is to contact the listing agent and see if we can schedule an appointment.
Great. Well, this is progress. Any more
I'll
questions?
check on that the old building in Union too.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah,
what
I
the
think it would be
status
nice to
is.
be able to tour both.
Yeah.
And the Sanzo building is only 1 floor. Is there a basement? Must be.
I would guess there would be, but
Okay.
I haven't been
Yeah,
in that one, so I don't know for sure.
So looking at both of them, the Burt's building is a larger building and we could grow into it, but on the other hand, the Sanzo building, being in the municipal light district, reduces our utility costs and might be a good way to start out. As we're managing overhead, it would give us an advantage there and allow us to grow. But we could look at both and see, which one would work for us in either short term and then / long term. But I think seeing the buildings first would be a better way for us to decide how to proceed.
Yeah. And when you do that, could someone bring a camera and make some slides so we can share it with other people, and particularly share it with people that do have the knowledge of doing this? I mentioned to Ellen before we got cracking that I know Dan Knapp very, very well, and I'm sure he will come on a Zoom call and answer some really kind of big questions. Anthony, floor space, and Dan, what floor space do we need? How do you get the funding to start?
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one he's the owner of Urban Ore, is that right?
Yeah, yep, he's the owner of it. And Dan, just to give you the history, Dan started as I told you, sociology professor. He moved from Oregon to San Francisco. He had absolute no money, and he made his initial money by going to the landfill in San Francisco and pulling out aluminum and other metals and selling them. That's how he started his operation. And one interesting aspect of his day-to-day operation is that every day they send a van to the landfill. Oh, sorry. not the landfill. Sorry, they have a transit
Oh,
something, the transfer station.
transfer station. Yeah.
The way it works in San Francisco, sorry, in Berkeley, the way it works is citizens will drive in, they drop off all their recyclables, everything's weighed, and by the time they exit, that somebody's written out a check for everything they've deposited. So they make money instantly by dropping off the recyclables. And before you drop off the recyclables, you go to the reuse operation and drop off any reusables, either for free or sometimes Dan would buy things from them. And the other thing they do is to send a truck to the transfer station and pull materials, objects off the tipping floor. It has to be flat. You can't pull it from a pile, but from the floor, you can pull it out. And every day they're putting out a couple of tons of reusable objects from what would otherwise go into the landfill. And that's something that we might consider doing. I mean, having visited the landfill a couple of times, I've seen perfectly good doors. I even pulled one out for myself. Perfectly good doors and windows just being dumped into tips, into trucks. Whether or not there's a second operation to pull out good stuff or whether it's just sent for dumping, I don't know. But that's something that would be good to do as on top of all this. But that's down the road. That's down the road. You know, looking at that list of 38 things that you have to do before you can set things like that, I noticed that one of those things is a board of directors. And I think that trying to think practically, remember I'm a chemistry professor, I'm not practical, trying to think practically, I see this group as being the kernel of the board of directors. We will be the people that will oversee this. We have the goodwill to make this happen. One of our early things would be to find the director, to hire somebody we would interview people and find the person that has the experience and obviously the gung-ho spirit to get this thing accomplished. I see those steps as being very practical in the future. Board of directors is on our list, but getting that key person to be the director. Then he in turn, or she would be hiring staff to do all the different things that have to be done. And on top of all that, money. And that's where you coming back to you, Anthony. You obviously know something about where the money is in the county, the state. Does anybody have questions about that? How you go about getting grants? How long does it take? If we come back with a business proposal, how long does it take normally to get big bucks?
Actually, that was going to be my question. When we get to the point where we need funding, how do we submit a request to you, Anthony? Do we put together a business plan? We contact you and say we're looking for this and you tell us what the funding opportunities are and we apply for the grants? How would we go about that?
Yeah, so I think we can support, like at the village level, we would support the application. So we would help, bring it to whether it's the town of Union, Broome County, or higher levels of government. We'd say we have a company looking to come here. Here's what their business plan is. Here's some funding they need, and they sometimes they tell us like, well, here, go for this. We have this pot of money here, that pot there. So they'll kind of direct us. A lot of the grants like the village does on their own are like they're state issued grants. So we're notified by the state. So if there's certain things we can do, if there's like a great opportunity would be if they ever do which I know is talked about in this upcoming state budget, is like a downtown revitalization grant. So we would work with private businesses, private entities, looking to see what they're trying to do to the area, developers, people like that, and work with them to apply for the funding. So it really depends kind of what stage we're at and what's available to us directly, if we take a more of a lead role or more of a support role in that grant opportunities there.
And in terms of grants, does the village have any restrictions on partnering with other granting agencies? So perhaps we find a foundation that is willing to provide some money, but they're looking for a matching grant in some way. Are there any restrictions with the village on those types of funding opportunities?
No, it'd be more on the grant, whoever issues the grant. So most of them, the ones I've seen, there is no, sometimes you can like piggyback grants. So you can have like multiple grants for the same project. I've seen that. I mean, we have that going on now. But it's how the grant is issued by the authority on what the restrictions are, if there are any. How much local share, if there's any local funding that has to be involved. So, they may say like, submit us a project for $100,000 and we'll give you 70 and you have to match 30 or something, just to throw numbers out there, so.
Okay, so good.
A lot of times there is some kind of local interest in it, to be able to get a grant. But there's ones like the Restore New York that I mentioned earlier. That's probably one of the best ones out there because it's 90% funded by the grant and 10% local share.
Okay.
So that's really one of the better ones that's out there. More of them are somewhere less than that, maybe 50-50, 70-30 in that range. But it really depends who's able to help and what access they have.
Okay.
Well, that's the quickest hour I spent recently. It's 8:30 already. Not wishing to overtax people with these meetings. They want to be fun. Oh, George has joined us. George, my goodness. How long have you been with us, George?
I just came on about 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, with some exciting things. The developments are, there are a couple of buildings that Anthony Bates has suggested that we look at. We need a volunteer to coordinate that visit. Just find a time that's available and then invite people on this call to join them. When you do that, I've just put in a request that we make sure that someone has a camera to take pictures so that we can. So who would like to take on that responsibility of coordinating the visits? Working with
of the buildings that were mentioned, you mean?
Yes.
I can do that.
Okay. Excellent, George. Then I'll leave you to liaise with Anthony and the people that own these buildings or whatever. I think Anthony will know who we have to contact. And so anytime over the next couple of weeks, if you can get that together, then
Absolutely.
That would be terrific. The second task is we are still trying to get somebody from Ithaca, Reuse Ithaca, to come and talk and show slides, do a PowerPoint presentation of Reuse Ithaca. I shall continue to try to contact these folks, but meanwhile, either way, I'm going to get Dan Knapp on the PowerPoint because, again, and that would be very, very helpful if when we have Dan Knapp on the call, we have the pictures of these two buildings so that Dan can look at those pictures and say, well, that's a lousy place to do what you want to do. This is what you want. And that's the kind of experience he really has. I mean, he'll know that. So that's my task. I'm going to get Dan Knapp and eventually Reuse Ithaca on the call. What other tasks have we got to do or other suggestions?
Well, if
So
people,
I'm going to start the reuse registration application. I'll start going through that, get that
Excellent.
going and see how far I can go and what I need to add in.
Yeah. Do you
George,
need?
add me into the tour. Add me in
Yes.
because I have actually a video camera from work that we can use
Okay.
to instead of using somebody's phone, we'll use an actual video camera and videotape these buildings and see what people think.
Paul, do you want to schedule either both the PowerPoint from Reuse Ithaca or the connection with Dan Knapp before any people visit buildings? Because I don't know if you don't have some context. I don't know that looking at a space, if you don't know the kinds of things that.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't I try to, why don't I try to get Dan Knapp on a call for next week at the same times? If that's, am I pushing it too much? If you want it done before, it's kind of, it will delay the time we get to visit these buildings, but I think that's a really good suggestion. Put those buildings in the context of what Dan Knapp tells us, or what, for that matter, Reuse Ithaca tells us.
I don't think it would hurt to have a library of videos of the buildings even beforehand, because there are other suggestions that could be used for those buildings too.
In other words, you would get the videos and show them to Dan Knapp. Now, he would
Yes.
have a call in which he has a look at it.
And just let's say if he says nay, then they could be used for something else. At least we know what buildings are available.
Yeah. Well, George, I think I like that idea. Tom, you satisfied with that? That's not quite what you asked for.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's do that then. You've got 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now,
Okay.
I hope to have Dan Knapp on the call, and if not, Reuse Ithaca, to look at the videos. You're going to share the videos with them and with our team here. So we're all learning at the same time, and we'll take it from there.
Great.
Maria is filling out the forms. Who wants to work on pursuing the grant stuff with Anthony? Is that Maria again?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
But
So
I think at this point, the granting portion will take place once we know what kind of money we're going to need.
Even amongst people. who are
So,
all
but
engaged with the same
I'll go to the
outcome.
Restored New York website, Anthony, and check that
How
out.
to-
And start seeing what's there. Obviously, and then we'll have to discuss, Paul, startup costs. We'll have to figure out what we need the money for, because we actually need to put a business plan together.
yeah.
That we need to do that first, and then we can start looking at funding opportunities.
Okay.
But until we have the business plan, we don't have anything. We just have ideas, and any granting organization is going to want to see numbers, concrete numbers. So let's get a business plan together. We can, start to see what's out there in terms of funding. But Anthony has already kind of given us an idea that there are funding opportunities out there. And, everything funding always works in a cycle. So while we may miss one, we would be able to take advantage of another, and then start to build from there. But I think we should have a business plan in place before we start asking for money.
Sounds good. I think we got a plan here. I noticed a person called Jerry Wiley. I've been very rude. I haven't asked you to introduce yourself. Would you like to do that, Jerry? Do we know you already?
She came to your
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
yes.
okay. I live in Owego, and I'm very impressed by what you're trying to do. And so I just feel a passion with listening to your progress. So I'm kind of like doing other things, but I feel compelled to listen. And if you would like me to try to engage with the repair center in Ithaca and make that contact to bring her, I think her name's Diane, to
Jerry, that's great. You're on.
okay.
Jerry, you get Diane to come on a PowerPoint. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and you're thinking 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now. You get Diane and I'll get Dan Knapp.
That sounds good, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else that we haven't recognized, called upon? No, I think everybody else is familiar.
Do people think it's a good idea to do some sort of a bulletin or newsletter for just really making people aware of all the services that Broome County has?
Mhm.
And, you can recycle this type of thing. Like, I'm reading this and I thought I was a zero waste person. I'm not. There's so much knowledge in those sites that you sent to us, Tom, that I feel like it would be a good thing. And another thing too, Paul, is I understand hands-on is so much better. And I feel bad, Coralie, because I feel like we're at like beginning stages and it's not like quite something that we can actually provide to you as options to do, for your class to be able to participate in. But I would hope that would come, fairly soon after we, get going on the whole idea of the reuse and repair. And
Ellen,
Something that,
who was in charge of the No Burn website?
myself and Paul's wife Ellen created it, but I have all full access and everything. Well,
Do you envision a parallel website for this project?
we envision a parallel website for Inspire Broome. However, we wanted to gauge and see if we're actually going to make it. We're going to make it as a team. But I think there's enough of us that have the passion and I forget what you said a little earlier, Paul, the wherewithal, the passion to want it to happen. So as far as I hadn't thought of a zero waste website, which that could be interesting. But one thing too, and I would like for you to elaborate, but I wouldn't want to take away from any county sites that are out there. But what is your thought? What is your idea?
Me or
No, Tom.
Tom.
Well, no, I'm just wondering in terms of if there is an existing website and we link off of that to another website, and that's a way of advertising things. Now, when you were thinking a newsletter, were you thinking of having bits of information like once a month? But then is the mailing list for that website or for the newsletter, is that, the group of about 40 or so that were at the first meeting, or who would that be directed to?
It would be seated by that 50 and probably a lot more people whose addresses we have in Endicott just from the No Burn Broome. But the idea to me, and I've never done a newsletter before, so I'm open up to any ideas. The idea would be to try and get as many Broome County residents involved in receiving that newsletter once a month. And it would be, to me, it would be tidbits that are in all those websites that are on that resources doc. There is a plethora. There's so much information in those.
Yeah.
If you feed it to be people in little tidbits,
Mhm.
they're more likely to glom onto it, I think. Oh, I didn't know you could recycle this. Oh, okay. Well, here's the phone number you can call to, whatever, ask an additional question or whatever. That's sort of my initial thoughts.
I think it's a great idea, Ellen, because I think we need a lot of little things for people to do. Just
Mhm.
the notion that something is happening. We've got a big dream here,
Yeah.
and it's going to take some time before that happens. And if you're not careful, it's, oh, these are just talkers. They have a big ideas, but nothing is happening.
Right.
No, I think right now we should start saying, here are things that you can do right now. The tip of the day, and then we can ask people for their tips. I mean, if you don't compost in your backyard, did you know that you can get the backyard composter for half price from the land?
Or that wonderful class I took that Josh came to our meeting 2 weeks ago from Cornell Cooperative Extension of Broome County. I learned how to, well, it's somewhat involved, but you can do indoor composting. Who knew? And it was this hour-long webinar he gave. That would be an example of something that I would put, that we could be put into the bulletin. So to get people more interested. I mean, that's not money making, but that's generating awareness and,
Right.
and community building.
Yes.
Lots of little ideas, practical ideas that things people can do. George, you've got your hand up.
Yes, you know, Tom has a good point, and it makes me think that maybe we do have a website, Inspire Broome, and just have on one of the headings of things that somebody can click on is projects in motion.
Yeah.
And that would be No Burn Broome as an archive, and then also Zero Waste as an archive. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
List of projects, and we can add to that projects list, because I think the wealth of information just from No Burn Broome and how we approach the situation, others from around the globe might even like to visit to see how they can stop an incinerator. or
And
get rid
even
of an
the
incinerator.
website has the advantage, something like Paul, I was going to ask you to send me the PowerPoint set that you used at the first meeting, because I think
Yeah.
I'd like to get that to one of the TAEs on campus, that's sustainable communities. Should have thought of that previously, because I actually had it, I think, on the original list to see if there's any interest there. But if something like this, the slide set was posted on a website, you could direct people to
Yep.
start, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I think,
Absolutely.
and
yeah.
then Ellen, your idea of getting little bits out in terms of newsletter, I think both things could be done in parallel from the you know, would be a good idea. But Paul, so if you could send me that original slide.
Yeah, of course I can. I will do that.
And you're right, Tom, you know, on No Burn Broome site, we have Paul's presentations and all recordings. I recorded that meeting if they were interested in the recording. I mean, granted, it was somewhat long, but you know,
But I thought that for the person I'm thinking of that directs the TAE, I don't personally know him. I know the name. The slide set, I think, would be a quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
A professor's not going to sit for.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that they too, yeah, I don't have any direct connections to the TAs other than they were started on campus as connected to the strategic planning that I was involved in. So that they work, but other than that, I haven't had any contact with individual TAs, but the one is on sustainable communities. And one of the things that the university likes is people getting involved in the community and people getting grants. So there may be a connection there.
Okay.
So,
And pop, just for everyone. So this is the document we've been talking about, the 4 R's. Actually, Paul suggested putting in redesign, by the way, Tom. So Tom originated this document, and then I put it on a Google Docs. And what he's talking about, sorry for all the flipping here, in the section that says local environmental advocacy and educational organization, this is what you're talking about, right?
yeah. And I have not directly contacted them, and I will do that before the next meeting. If I have Paul's set of slides, I'll get that out.
That's great. That's wonderful.
So if people can send ideas to Ellen for the newsletter, I've got some cartoons that you can use. Those are fun. We just make it lively and fun, but practical ideas.
Yeah. And I envision it as something where we can get, you know, there's this class that's coming up, you know, it's, you know, learn how to do indoor composting. And granted, everyone has all entities have their own ways of advertising, usually on Facebook or whatever. So I don't want to, the idea would be to shed light on things that people are doing, not take away anyone's thunder. So, but that's it for me, Paul. I think we're about done.
Well, thanks everybody. Thank you, especially Anthony, for coming on at such short notice. A tremendous resource.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
Thank you.
Just one thing that for what Maria said there is like the Restore New York and a lot of those applications, the grant applications, it's not an open application. So it has to be released by the state at certain times, and then you can apply for it. The
Mhm.
one they usually do every year is called the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application. It's really a whole year's worth of grant applications rolled up into one application. And it usually comes out around June or July, and then the awards are issued in December. Last year with COVID and everything was suspended, so they really didn't do much for that. But we're hopeful all those programs come in again this year. So just if you go on, it's like the Empire State Development website, then you can
Okay.
search grants and applications that way. So I just wanted to clear that up, that they're not always an open application, so you can't just apply, as needed. You have to wait for them to be released, and then you can submit the app that way.
And then that would be something I would coordinate with you.
Yeah, so we can, usually like the village will submit what we can. If it's a private entity, they have to submit on their own. But we can help guide you a little bit through the process there, and just, maybe put you in contact with someone if you have
Okay.
questions and
Alright.
help that along those lines.
Well, then that gives us incentive to get our business plan together pretty
Yeah.
quick. So because June, July, we're just a couple of months away. So,
All right.
Good.
all right.
Well, thanks again,
Thank you.
everybody, for
Thank you,
showing
everybody.
up, and we'll
Good night, everybody.
see you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Buonanotte.
Good night.
Buonanotte.
Good night.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Okay,
Grazie. Bye.
Bye.
bye.